right, at this time, let's quickly take the RT200 FX summit that was held a few days ago in Lagos.
On the 9th of May 2023, the Central Bank of Nigeria and the Bankers Committee held its biannual RT200 summit on non-oil exports. Godwin Emefiele, the CBN governor, stated that the purpose of the summit was to re-evaluate performances and rebalance processes for the RT200 program. He further stated that the RT200 program has made tremendous progress in export repatriation.
Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, this biennial non-oil export summit provides a platform to deliberate on how to accelerate the value and volume of Nigeria's non-oil exports and ensure that proceeds therefrom are utilized most optimally for the benefit of our economy. Countries all over the world are turning to export earnings and proceeds repatriation as a veritable means of bolstering foreign reserves, maintaining a robust balance of payments position, and a stable source of foreign exchange inflow. It is in recognition of this that the Central Bank of Nigeria, in collaboration with the Bankers Committee, identified the RT200 program and export promotion in general as a critical tool for attaining sustainable and stable external balance and safeguarding the value of our local currency.
But the reason we are here today is that if you look at the 4 buckets that make up gross domestic product, what we call GDP, consumption, investment, government spending, and then net exports. It's very important to note with delight that export is one of those that come into that equation to add. And that's why the governor has been paying significant attention to this aspect of the economy. You may notice that imports actually enter that equation to subtract. And so when you see him say, let's reduce imports, he knows what he's talking about. It's because that equation is there to, or that variable is there to reduce gross domestic product. But exports come in to add. And how do they add? They add by creating jobs. They add by improving foreign exchange, liquidity in the market. They add by building your global profile. They add by innovation, research and development within the companies that do this. And they add by ensuring that you keep your eyes focused on the goal of sustainable economic growth.
Also, the Commissioner of Economic Planning and Budget, Mr. Samuel Egube, in his welcome address stated that the initiative has encouraged and is enhancing non-oil export earnings in Nigeria, as well as repatriation of foreign exchange in the Nigerian economy.
The importance of this initiative in the face of challenging and unstable sources of foreign exchange from crude oil and associated products cannot be overemphasized. It is therefore in the light of this that I commend the Central Bank of Nigeria under the leadership of Dr. Godwin Emefiele, CON, for initiating this program as a critical step towards diversifying the economy and increasing the capacity of the non-oil sector to generate more foreign exchange earnings to boost economic growth and stabilize the economy generally. It needs to be mentioned that this initiative supports the fact that we can no longer continue to pay lip service to the issue of diversification and reducing our dependence on fossil fuels as our major source of foreign exchange.
The RT200 program further discussed the non-oil export initiative along answering questions from the audience.
So we were unanimous in identifying the fact that export was the way to go. Even after identifying that export was the way to go, we gave it to CBN, and when they came back and modeled it into RT200, it became a very, very enticing, a very, very encouraging platform for us to unleash the potentials of this country. And today, in the speech of the governor, he has given hope of, from the testimonials, we can see that an economic renaissance has commenced for the country. And this economic renaissance is going to be steadily driven by what we will do and continue to do in the export space. I must also thank the Deputy Governor Economic Policy for the guidance in putting this together at the onset. And today, when he spoke about the components of GDP, I remember my little mathematics and said, if we are to put it in a quadratic function, export becomes the integral function, because the integral function is the one that completes every other variable. So from what we can see now, export is that integral function that will complete us in driving a sustainable economic development. I need not waste too much time to talk about the gains or where we are, but I would like to show a few slides that speak to what we have achieved with respect to RT200 and looking at how we can increase the tempo, because we have just started. What started as baby steps has now gone to very intense and bold steps that we need to reinforce. Volume of NSP. NSP represents the documentation of every export out of the country. Volume of NSP increased from $3.4 billion to 4.82, giving a 40% growth. FS repatriation increased by about 56%. So looking at this, you can see incremental, very significant incremental growth. However, it's important to know that from the report of Nigerian Export Promotion Council, the volume of increase we have seen in the export space in the last 1 year is the highest in 47 years. This slide speaks to the payment of rebates. When we started Q1, 3.23 billion was paid. Q2, it moved to 20.33. Q4, 40.44. Q3, then Q4, 54.96. And Q1, 25, giving a total of 144 billion that has been paid so far. And what is important is that if you look at the trajectory, that of what you see as Q1 is just the first payment. Usually, once a payment is made, I can tell you that out of a total of about 340-something applications we submitted to CBN, only about 100 applications have been paid. You know, CBN, they have a way of recalibrating these things at times. So it is not to say that there is a decline, but it's just to say that there seems to be some moderation in terms of how the rebate is being applied. Remember, one of the anchors of the rebate or the objective is that there must be significant value addition. And I must also say that from the inception of the program, CBN has been very understanding and accommodating, and in paying out significant rebate even when the amount of value addition is not really commensurate. But right now it looks like value addition is now being driven as a major function, because value addition speaks to so many things. Value addition speaks to employment generation. Value addition speaks to development. Value addition speaks to the fact that yes, we are not taking our items in the primary form and exporting, but processing, and it will help us to enhance our competitive standing in the international community. So where have we achieved this? Or in looking at the achievement, let's quickly look at the pillars. These are the 5 pillars: value addition, non-oil commodity expansion facility, non-oil FS rebate scheme, dedicated non-oil export terminal, then biannual non-oil export summit. Let's look at how far we've achieved. Value addition, like we saw from the testimonial of some of those interviewed, a good number of companies have started increasing in terms of the value addition level of the operation. I can speak to the fact that cocoa, cashew, soya bean, etc. are one of the top items where we are seeing very reasonable value addition. Then there's also been significant increase in the export of aluminum, lead, and copper ingots, metal, and all that. But the remarks I have here is that we need to look at the infrastructural requirement for value addition. Value addition talks about processing, it's operational. So you don't just wake up and say you want to do value addition, you need to make some investment into it. Then the capacity and experience to sustain this objective is also something we need to look at. So maybe when we start looking at areas of the advocacy, we may look at how to remodel the advocacy to create awareness and see how we create partnership with institutions and organizations that have experiences outside the country that we can attract to come in here. Next slide. Pillar 2, non-oil expansion credit facility. There have been a number of credit facilities that CBN has put in place. I enumerated them there. But what we see there that there have not been significant increase in funding for primary production. Not so much is going into value addition. So this is one area where we have to look into. So ladies and gentlemen, I'm sure with the panel I have here very experienced and well-exposed individuals, we'll be able to look at some of the prospects and opportunities for us to see that going forward we'll build momentum. Let me begin with Mr. Safara, who is also doing very well in terms of export. Now, Mr. Safara, what are your thoughts on what is required to have relevant stakeholder engagement for the creation of dedicated non-oil export terminal? What should we do to really trigger that immediately?
I think good morning everyone, and thank you very much. It's an honor to be amongst all of you. Of course, the export terminal and the blockages at the port have been a source of consistent problem. As a company ourselves, we diversified our export terminal or the output from Lagos to Port Harcourt. So now we are working with 2 ports, but that of course becomes very expensive. We have to find the right logistics means. There are tracking systems, there are different ways that we can discipline the entry and the exit to the port. So I think a lot more work has to be done there. The Lekki Deep Sea Fort has been commissioned, and of course it's a journey. The infrastructure projects don't happen overnight, so I think there's a lot more work which has to be done in making it more accessible, more viable. The dry ports which you had mentioned, there we have to get more of those. The railway network, of course, the government has been working on. There were attempts to do that, to bring containers to the port when it was really congested. There were other options for using barges. So I think from that point of view, the private sector, the public sector has made many attempts to ensure that the throughput increases. So I guess it will still be work in progress, and we have to make more efforts to get it done. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So it's more of a collaboration between the public and the private sector. Okay. Now, my next question goes to the representative of the MD of First Bank, where lending for primary production has been suboptimal. Do you believe that credit risk sharing between the DFIs, CBN and Deposit Money Bank will improve this in this area of export value chain?
Thank you, and good morning all, and thanks for the initiative. It's actually a big success so far in First Bank's opinion. When my CEO attended a meeting, I believe with the governor and other CEOs, he returned and he gave me an update. And I took all the notes. I was in his office, and I got back to my desk, and he called me and asked if he needed me to repeat everything that he had said. Of course, I said that wasn't necessary. But in his opinion, this was a critical policy and initiative, and I needed to pay attention and focus, and I think that's what we have done. And so far, so good, huge success. The model you described, Ebenezer, is a model that is successful across other geographies. There are all sorts of credit insurance, first loss products available involving DFIs where they team up with pure commercial banks and essentially allows them expand lending to companies depending on what they are trying to achieve. I think it would be a huge success. I haven't seen it applied in scale in our market here in Nigeria. I think pretty much we're still reliant on the central bank and also on the commercial banks to push the initiatives forward. But ultimately, that model that you have described, DFI's risk sharing, I think it's one